All right, guys, Eric here, back outside with Mr. Carrot Greg. Carrot, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. So if you don't know Carrot, you didn't see our other videos, highly recommend you go watch them. He also has an awesome YouTube channel himself. I'm sure you've seen his videos, YouTube, Instagram, does a lot of traveling with a lot of great coaches, lots of great content. To do what we're all trying to do, which is help you guys play better golf. We're gonna put his link in the description down below. And the point of this video is the same thing, for you to play better golf. And in one of the videos I saw Carrot do, he was talking about forearm rotation. And in this video, we're gonna describe what forearm rotation is, how much you should have, how it kind of depends on you, right, the player, and some things you can do in your swing. And I would say undoubtedly, there's a couple of things we hear a lot when we're coaching or questions that come up.
Yeah.
And forearm rotation is one of the biggies, right?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of players are trying to limit how much they're getting that club face opening and closing throughout the golf swing. But sometimes it just takes a simple understanding of exactly why the club needs to move in that fashion to then bring awareness that, okay, I'm a player with X mobility and I play this much, maybe I do need a little bit more face rotation.
Hello. So you're saying the goal isn't just to play golf and keep the club perfectly square the whole way back and perfectly square the whole way forward. That's not what we're doing?
No.
Okay, please do tell. Please do tell what we are doing.
So I think one of the easiest ways to explain the golf swing is to remove the front bend element. Right?
Okay.
So front bend would be how much I am tilting down to the golf ball with my chest facing down towards where it's laid. If I stand up dead straight and I take that exact same wrist condition and arm structure and I pretend I've got a tabletop out in front of me, right? We can see at this stage the toe of the golf club is pointing up towards the sky. Now, the golf swing is a circular event, so the golf club head needs to orbit around our body in such a fashion in which is also facilitated by wrist hinge. Now, we always hear terms like flat left wrist. Well, if I just move this golf club around my body, keeping the toe facing up towards the sky, which a lot of players are trying to do because they go, well, I need to keep the face pointing at the ball, that's going to be more consistent. All of a sudden, we can see a huge breakdown of the structure of the arms and no wrist hinge.
Yes.
Right? So standing up straight, if I just pivot my chest back along this imaginary tabletop, we can see that the toe of the golf club is pointing up towards the sky. If I then tilt down into my posture here, sure, that might be a relatively good takeaway position.
Yes.
But the golf swing's not done.
Right.
I don't try and keep going in that fashion. Right?
Right, yeah.
So we need a little bit of this wrist hinge, which facilitates that more power in the golf swing. As I then turn my chest, if I tilt down, well, we go, guess what? It's a backswing motion. And I love the tabletop analogy purely because if I get my wrists hinging correctly, we get this flat left wrist, right? And then I pivot my body, we can still see that this club shaft within reason is staying along that imaginary tabletop.
Yes.
Right? If I'm a player who is under the assumption that I need to keep the face pointing at the ball for as long as I possibly can, I am manipulating that golf club through a folding, a bending, a loss of structure, a loss of grip. And sure, I'm in this position here, but you can see that's certainly not something that we're going to be able to produce on the way through.
So many good points in there. And I think assuming, and this is one thing you said in the first video a bunch of times, and it's we need to say it, is like assuming a neutralish grip.
Yeah, correct.
Right? That club face is going to look like, to make the club face actually square the whole time requires ridiculous motions.
Correct.
Let's do the tabletop good version one more time. So from here, if we make a backswing, to get the club head to actually travel all the way around your body with any reasonable arm structure, it needs to look like that. And I think a nice little point here, the toe of the club is still actually slightly above or in front of the heel of the club, even with that arm rotation, which keeps it square. The second thing was the timing element, right? If you take your setup one more time, and we go from, and let's do even just out of ball here. And if you did like a good takeaway, let's just say P2, you can see in a normal, the arms have rotated some, the face has opened some, and it still looks like we all want it to look. The toes in front of the heel, it's in a perfect position. So we're not saying, right, that we're not here saying, hey, we're gonna take our setup and we're gonna go whoop inside. Correct. Certainly not. Yeah. We're saying it's just a normal amount of rotation, and then it's a continuation of the normal amount of rotation to the top. I think those are two key little checkpoints in there. The club face can still be slightly tilted down, normal grip, and then it's gradually rotating to the top. And then, of course, logically, golf or anything, if we opened the club face to some degree steadily throughout the backswing, assuming we want to hit the ball at the target, We then need to close it some amount steadily throughout the downswing.
Yeah.
So the tabletop example, I assume, kind of works on the way through as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So if I remove that front bend, let's say I move myself into a position in the backswing that I would be very happy with. Now, this is very individual as such relative to the player's mobility and also level of golf that they play at. But the professional golfer, if I get back to impact, they would tend to get into this position here.
Yeah.
I add in my front bend.
Looks perfect.
That looks like what you would see on TV. And then the release pattern on the way through. Then we would start to see that within reason we would keep this somewhat level with the ground. Yeah.
And that toe would be progressively passing the heel.
Correct.
Right all the way through.
And there's a reason that the golf club is weighted in such a way as well. So we can see that if I just let this balance on my finger, the toe of the golf club is actually going to open and close.
Yeah.
It's not equally weighted in such a way where it would stay straight back and through. Yeah.
Exactly. Huge concept there, guys, too. And I think that's point number one. Like that toe, the club is designed to rotate around the shaft.
Yeah.
Right? Now, so that's one big thing. I think that's hopefully a good visual.
Yeah.
The second point I think that we would say is, how much then am I supposed to rotate the club face? More or less, and how does it depend a little bit? We got a little buddy flying through there. That'd be a good slow-mo. And I think it depends on a couple of things. And one thing that I think all of us would agree upon is it depends on how you use your body.
Yeah, massively.
You could look at that as like how much rotation someone has right on the way through. So the players who typically, and tell me if you think otherwise, the players who would be able to have the least amount of rotation on the way down would also have A, the club face in a good position at the top.
Correct.
And B, a significant amount of body rotation, pelvis and rib fusion on the way down.
Yeah.
That might be like Victor Hovland, Dustin Johnson, tour players, right? Lots of speed. If you're someone who can't rotate like Dustin Johnson or Victor Hovland, that would be pretty much everyone here on this range. And if you're watching as well, then you might consider, hey, I might want to close that a little bit more active on the way down. And so 2 points I'd like us just to hit on with this. Number one, it depends on the body motion, right? The player's mobility, rotation. And number two, everybody closes the club face a healthy amount on the way down.
Correct, correct.
Even Dustin Johnson, even Victor Hovland, who are kind of shut at the top, they have less than maybe the normal player, but it's still a significant amount.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when I would be looking at a player and maybe they ask the question is like, should I be working on a passive release? Well, the first of which, this little checkpoint of club shaft parallel, if the face is, let's say this is a neutral position here, if the face is anywhere from toe up to even more, if they have a passive release, Eric, you're losing some kneecaps there, mate. So this player, relative to face angle and also pitch of the shaft, is going to have some element of face rotation. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Because if you were to get someone like a Dustin Johnson and they were to limit their body rotation, or if they were to have an open face, they are not freaks of nature where they're just going to have always a passive release. It is simply just a product. It is an effect to the cause of how their club is in position. Because let's say I've got a strong face orientation, or where the toe would be pointing more down, well, now my body is naturally incentivized to rotate more. As we can see, would keep the face for longer. We would see that normally coupled with a bit of right side bend, but essentially the hands are staying more in front of the chest and the club face would look more passive.
And would you say along with that, the only way you're going to get that look is if you can move your body that way?
Correct, correct, absolutely. Because if you're a player and let's say the face is slightly open, and then all of a sudden you go, well, I want to move like DJ, so I'm going to slam this thing shut here. But then, coupled with sequencing of the golf swing and individual mobility, you could be snap hooking it around your left ankle simply because you cannot move as well.
The side bend and the rotation.
As a thoroughbred, yeah.
Let's flip flop for a second, okay? There's so many good points in there, especially that last checkpoint of like where your club's at there, ultimately is the piece that matters the most.
Yeah.
Another little thing with this as you go, right? Because arm rotation, we're just talking, the tabletop thing is a great example. It's just the hands are together, the thumbs are up, they're rotating away from the target on the way back, they're rotating towards the target on the way through. That's effectively what we're doing, right?
Correct, correct.
And if I take the club and hold it up somewhere in front and swing it around my body, certainly it's opening some amount, certainly it's closing some amount progressively the whole way. if you don't move your body and turn and rotate as much, can you still play excellent golf? Yes, you can. There's many examples of that, right?
Yeah.
The argument comes up that there's like too much timing involved, which is another conversation. Is there more timing? Maybe a little bit. Is it enough where you still can't play great golf? Certainly not, right?
Yeah.
Meaning like you can do that and play great golf. The other little piece with this, as we're going, is if I'm hitting out towards a target, I can use the ball, right, for some feedback.
Yeah.
So kind of to your point of if the face is here and it goes to the right, if you're hitting shots and you're like, should I add more arm rotation or not? And you're nervous about adding it because you feel like it's not correct, you're manipulating it as too much timing. Meanwhile, you're standing there and hitting the ball 10, 20, 30 yards right of target.
Yeah.
Something has to change there. And because I hear this all the time. Eric, I don't want to add more of this. I want to take timing out. I'm like, your timing isn't good to start with.
Yeah.
You're over there, right?
Yeah.
Now, you could close the face. They could grip. This is assuming your grip's decent. Your wrist angles are good. But I would add rotation, arm rotation through the downswing to the point where maybe even you could hit it left.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of overdo it.
Yeah.
And then you know what too much is.
Yeah.
And you could dial back to middle. And I always use this as an example. It's like, if we could go out and play and I said, hey, your new swing feel all year is add arm rotation. And you started shooting 68, 68, 68, 68. Would you be upset that you were feeling arm rotation on the way down?
Yeah.
Hitting the ball solid every time, high draws.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You'd be fine, right? You'd be like, this is great. And so if you get the outcome desired with it, I think the how part we get their changes. Because this is a big, this holds a lot of people back, dude.
Yeah, and I feel like if you look at the majority of players, they struggle with some sort of fade or slice bias. And by trying to maintain a passive release for as long as possible for the sake of achieving a visual, more than likely for every golfer out there who's not a professional, they're going to encourage more of a fade bias because they're going to be manipulating it. So there is absolutely nothing wrong to letting this toe of the golf club close whatsoever. And a great little checkpoint to just demonstrate this even more. If you set up to this golf ball here, Eric, and then take your front bend up, do the little tabletop analogy, right? Now, if keeping a passive face or keeping that face straight through the golf ball for so long was so important, let's say you did this. Right? Now add some side bend. You feel like you're about to over-rotate, buckle this lead arm, move it around the body.
Yeah.
Right? Now if you go back into your setup up here in the tabletop and you let this move in this fashion here, just slightly, now turn your chest towards the target and add a bit of side bend.
Feels normal.
Feels normal.
Yeah.
Right? So that little visual there helps massively with players then just conceptualizing exactly where it should be by that section of the swing.
I like that. So I'm kind of here, if this is 12 o'clock, I'm kind of putting it
Correct.
10 o'clock-ish?
Yeah, well, my reference would be that if it's out in front of you, a great easy sort of checkpoint would be more in line with the shoulder there.
Okay.
Right? And then if you just follow through for me.
Yeah, it feels perfectly normal.
Feels where it should be. Yeah.
And like this getting a passive, because we've done videos on that too, getting a passive look, toe to the right of the heel, very good if you're an elite level player, you hit hooks to the left, you need to take curve off.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're not that, and or you don't side bend and rotate, and you've been trying to add rotation for a decade and you still don't have it and you're still missing to the right, you can add arm rotation in. Okay, so when you're feeling this, someone's gonna start, right? I would say, hey, do the tabletop.
Yeah.
Feel the toe kind of passing the heel.
Yeah, perfect.
Let it open on the way back.
Perfect, yeah.
I'm
And
not-
it's a simplification, and I think after you hit this one, Eric, I'm gonna show a little great drill that the players can use to kind of exemplify this.
And just with this too, this is gonna end up being a longer video, but this is good stuff. The timing of the rotation, okay? I still have the toe in front of the heel, because we've done videos where we're like, hey, if you can overdo or underdo anything.
Oh yeah.
If I overdo it and I'm here, then of course you need to feel a little more at the ball just to get the normal. It's kind of in line with the glove logo. It's right on top or just in front of the heel, and then it's progressively in front of the heel on the way through.
Yeah,
so,
correct,
okay.
correct.
So I'm feeling that kind of up here, letting it rotate around, and then, and again, seeing what the ball's gonna do. So like that's an example. That ball, I don't know, there's a yard left of my target. So I would assume all things equal, the amount of arm rotation I felt there was pretty good.
Yeah, this is a great checkpoint that anyone can use at home. It's also
wanna
a
hop
good
in or you want me to
warm-up
stay
drill.
in?
No, you can stay there. And it's also a great warm-up drill for a lot of players as well. If you take your setup, remove your front bend so it's out in front of you, right? What I want you to do is just do a powerful baseball swing. what did you feel the club head do through that impact zone?
Definitely rotation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now on the next one, reduce that feeling. So you're trying to hold it off, right? Yeah, exactly. See how slow it felt? How forced it felt?
Very not powerful.
Exactly, exactly. So if that
that's
feels
good.
unique to you, right? And you are not letting this club head feel like it's passing the hands, which is not casting, that's simply just letting the release of the golf club occur.
Yeah.
Well, then that's a great indication that you most likely need a little bit more face rotation in your swing.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's very easy for me to feel that this is like going nowhere.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm Victor Hovland and I swing my driver 125 miles an hour, I can probably do some of that, and I have so much speed it doesn't matter.
But he's not thinking about that.
Certainly
what
not
he's
thinking
thinking
about
about is he would be a feel towards a target, which is happening as an effect. He's not going, hold the face off, keep the hands in front of the chest, pull it around the corner.
And so obviously as I'm rotating the face is closing to the path. That's going to lower the dynamic loft.
Correct.
We're talking about balls that should go farther, pop off the face, more power, not have the ball missing to the right as much. So, okay, one more like this. So I'm going to feel that same sort of tabletop sensation.
And then just one addition to that is that if you do that same baseball drill and you don't let your chest rotate, you are going to feel the face close a lot more than if you let it rotate on the way through.
And how ironic that that's like the same thing that goes on when we're talking about the swing.
Yeah.
So if I don't rotate at all, my
how
arms
much
have to go.
Correct.
If I were to increase my chest rotation, I still feel the arm rotation.
Yeah, just happens later. Yeah.
Very good. So guys, a bit more, wanted to talk through the details there because I think that's so important. Hopefully, if you stayed until the end here, we're going to put his information down below with the videos. He's got a lot of great videos on this. We'll link a video, similar topic on here. Just don't be afraid of adding arm rotation because of any kind of stigma. Let the results speak for themselves. If you don't turn and rotate like the guys on the tour, you're not going to release like them either. All right, thanks, dude.
Cheers, mate.